In this video, we will look at moving your models on the board in Bushido. In the previous video, we looked at some basic rules of the game. If you have not yet watched it, it would be useful for you to do so, as some of what we cover here will need those rules to understand. We will cover some more basic rules in this video in order to build on your understanding of the mechanics, including zones of control and a brief look at line of sight, which we will cover in more detail in the next video on ranged attacks. In Bushido Risen Sun, models maneuver in order to close with the enemy or complete objectives to win the game. Models move around the board in a number of ways depending on the action chosen when the model activates, or if effects are applied to those models. A model's movement distance is usually determined by the model's move statistic seen here on its profile card. During a move, a model cannot pass through another model's base, nor can it move through impassable terrain. When measuring how far a model can move, use the front or back of its base. Make sure, however, to measure to the same point in order to move the correct distance. Changing facing is considered movement even if the model remains in the same place. In Bushido, every model has a zone of control. This extends 1 inch from the edge of its base to any point within its line of sight. In most cases, this extends 90 degrees to either side of the center of the front of its base, known as its facing. A model cannot usually enter the zone of control of an enemy during movement, so this must be taken into account when moving. Friendly models' zone of control are ignored for the purposes of movement. A model making a move action may move up to the given distance along any path, subject to the restrictions for the action or the ability, and may change its facing at the end of the movement. The model may make a move up to the distance allowed, in any direction. A model performing a walk may not move into an enemy zone of control and may end its move facing any direction it wishes. A model that runs may choose a point within its line of sight, then make a movement in a straight line directly towards that point. A run allows a model to move up to 1.5 times its move statistic. This is subject to the other rules for movement, so no entering zones of control or moving through impassable terrain. A model that runs may not change its facing at the end of a move. The model targets an enemy model and moves up to twice its move statistic in a direct line towards that model's zone of control. It may not contact other enemy models' zones of control during this move. If it does, it must stop when it touches. Once in contact with the targeted model's zone of control, it must move directly towards the target until it is base to base. This does not need to be in the same straight path as the charge move. Placing a model is not considered movement. Pick up the model and place it in its new permitted location. There is no move path for placing, and so it ignores zones of control, models, and terrain for this placement, although it cannot end its placement inside impassable terrain, or an enemy model, or into base to base with an enemy model. These are the main rules to do with movement in Bushido. In this video, we have touched on zone of control, line of sight, and how to move your models in Bushido. For more details and information, it's recommended to read the relevant sections of the rulebook, the pages of which are detailed below. In the next video, we will look at ranged attacks and how to execute them in Bushido Risen Sun.